Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Zach. Welcome to the New Topic by Channel. I am going to be doing some millennial news analysis for you now. Today I have a piece on international news, but I intend to focus on international and domestic news evenly, if not focusing a little bit more on U.S. national news. I just want to say that everything I say here is op-ed, and even when you're reading or consuming or watching, having a conversation, listening to a podcast of anything that is news and not op-ed, please think critically. Think critically when you're just reading or listening to a regular book. I beg of you. That's what I wanted to say. All right. I have somewhere to be tomorrow, so this is not going to be edited. So I apologize in advance because I say a lot. All right. So let's go. Today is the 25th of September, 2025. It is a Thursday. And I'm going to be talking about my own suppositions on the recent Russian drones in Denmark and why this is important both to the world and to the United States. So, without knowing the full context and with the only statement from the Kremlin to deny that this is their doing at the time of writing and researching this, I wrote my research I do on Ground News. Obviously not a sponsor, but use it. Honestly, if you're going to engage with news, it's a really, really good way to do so because it offers you an insight on the bias of the sources that you are using. Anyway, so as of now, the Kremlin is still denying that it's responsible for these attacks, invasions, incursions, whatever you want to call them, into Denmark. And, that's all we can say. However, the recent flyby on Alaskan airspace, we know is the Russians, as it was jets and not drones. I'm not going to get into that piece of it very much. It's documented by NORAD. You can look it up yourself, but there's not a lot to say at this moment to contribute to my analysis. I will touch on it later. So on Tuesday, September 23rd, Russia sent drones and an unidentified ship, which again may or may not be Russian, to Denmark, specifically Copenhagen. The drones were sent to Copenhagen Copenhagen Airport and caused it to shut down. Copenhagen had to cancel flights and wait for the drones to finish surveilling the airports. 4 other airports saw Russian drones fly over on Wednesday night and Thursday morning, Danish time. Unlike the Polish, who are equipped with anti-aircraft weaponry and had enough time and ammunition to shoot down as many drones as possible when their airspace was invaded, Denmark was not equipped with relevant firepower and chose not to make a request or a complaint to NATO, although they are now arming themselves with firepower that would allow them to anti-aircraft firepower, essentially. Again, please look into that more closely. They are blaming the Russians directly. Again, as I said, the Kremlin is denying these attacks, although NATO has officially condemned them as Russian action. Estonia has allowed Russian MiGs to fly through their airspace without any military reaction. This is going to be important later on in my supposition. So I have 2 main suppositions. My first one, and begins with the prospect that it is unlikely that Russia is going to invade Denmark on full scale until they're ready for a complete takeover. They may continue to do drone flyovers, particularly if they're able to do so in a more private context that will not be seen or reported by international sources, because, you know, they're starting to get in trouble. If they do so, NATO is more likely to be mobilized, and it will be much easier for Russia militarily, politically, globally, on a global political scale, to just appear in Denmark fully armed for a takeover than to face NATO forces, even though NATO forces admittedly are ill-equipped and they are stretched thin by the war in Ukraine, which is, as we know, also caused by Russia. Russia even made a similar move at the beginning of the Ukrainian war by showing up very quickly at the border of Crimea and moving in less than 24 hours after forces appeared. And although you can definitely argue that forces could have been mobilized to stop the action, forces were not mobilized within that short period of time, and, you know, Russia just went in. So my supposition is that if they indeed are purposely being aggressive towards Denmark, this is the type of invasion they will launch. So the question presents itself of airspace. How will they get to Denmark? What do they need from Denmark? In my opinion, if the Russians do intend to take over Denmark, it presents a significant but resolvable airspace problem, and this may be why we're seeing quote-unquote combination attacks, which, according to sources on ground news, are cyber and sea. Again, I've not seen a really great source confirming that boats are Russian, so I don't want to say that for sure. That's just an assumption that some people are making. So the question of airspace and Denmark presents a significant but resolvable problem in that Poland has already shown it will shoot Russian jets and drones down. Thus, Russia is going to have a very small tract of egress directly north of Estonia to cross the Bering Sea by air and land in Denmark, which is really the only feasible way for them to go without entering the Arctic Circle, wasting a lot of fuel, and as I'll speak to later, kind of nullifying their purpose. So it will be difficult, if not impossible, to do this without crossing into Swedish, perhaps Norwegian airspace. So there have been some reports, mostly non-verified reports of Russia in Swedish airspace, Norwegian airspace, perhaps this week. So that may be part of why. Although Denmark shares its only land border with Germany, it presents a philosophical problem to us, but it's not an immediate danger if my suppositions are correct for what Russia may need to do. So this leads to my next supposition that Russia will eventually overtake, invade, take over the Kingdom of Denmark in order to gain access to Greenland. So Greenland is actually a colony of the Kingdom of Denmark, and once they have done this, Russia will need to make speedy use of international airspace, taking over any of the light military coverage that is in Greenland. Again, there are some reports coming out of Denmark just today that they're going to arm up Greenland in preparation that this may be a thing that Russia wants to do. However, we don't know how quickly they'll be able to do this or how quickly Russia can move. So a relevant tangent, if any of you have flown internationally from the US to Europe or vice versa, planes often take a northerly route to and from Europe or to and from Africa, if possible. First is to avoid conflict zones in the Middle East and now in Ukraine, but second is to ensure planes fly over Greenland. So why would they do this? So a standard plane is able to land in Greenland very easily between North America and Europe during an emergency to make repairs, or more to the point of my own suppositions, to refuel. So why is this relevant? So this is my conclusion. So please remember, this is speculative, but as Russian aggression towards the United States increases and vice versa, as Trump and Putin sort of get along and don't get along, get along and don't get along, Russia may have a decided interest in Greenland for its proximity to the United States and its ability to refuel there. Similarly to how, if you don't know this already, how American military planes refuel in Ireland, which Ireland doesn't like because Ireland is neutral. And again, you can read about that on your own. Easy to look up. Has been going on for a long time. Is still being protested against. Yes, so after an invasion of Denmark, Greenland would be very easy for Russia to build military bases and refueling stations on. There is a direct airspace path, again, through the Med, from the Baltic Sea into the Med and up to Greenland, if Denmark becomes a Russian property. So like the Battle of the Atlantic, Greenland presents a space in between two warring powers, between two warring powers that could enable refuel and attack by planes armed with bombs, rather than relying on long-range warheads and missile defense systems. This may be a more easily winnable war, or for some other reason that I can't think of, a war that takes land, a war that takes property, a war that doesn't include nuclear weaponry. I don't know. Again, this is the conclusion to my supposition. So I just want to say that it is supported by the NORAD, which is, if you don't know, is the North American Aerospace Defense Command. It is shared command between the United States and Canada. They detected Russian warplanes near Alaska earlier today. We're positive that these planes are from Russia, and it is being called a routine exercise by NORAD and by Alaska. So why? I don't know. Maybe that's true. Just be aware of your own biases. My bias is to think, why would that be true? But maybe it is true, right? So being aware of your bias when thinking about any sort of politics, news, that kind of thing is very important. So as of now, the Russian warplanes near Alaska earlier today have been officially declared a routine and legal exercise. They were followed by American planes. However, in support of my own conclusion, Alaska is another easy way to enter the United States. So even without NORAD, putting aside the fact that Alaska is not connected to the lower 48, if you will, by land mass, it is a place where it would be very easy for planes to refuel. And so remember what I said earlier about setting up military bases, refueling for air-based attacks. This story is new. I haven't researched it thoroughly enough for it to be a full part of this analysis. It's just something I want you to have on your mind, and it may be completely irrelevant. So if you want to take it off your mind, go for it. And finally, we must always take into account that Russia may just be acting as a terrorist. If that's true, that's working for me. But, states can be terrorists as well as individuals. So let's remember that. All of this may mean nothing at all. All right, that's it for me. Next time you will see me will be with national news. I'm not going to talk about Charlie Kirk because I'm more interested in healthcare and why you might lose it. But if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, or subscribe. If you really liked the analysis, please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. I don't have a Patreon yet, but someday someone will play this video and I will have a Patreon. So as I said at the beginning, the facts of the story have been researched on the Ground News app. They are not a sponsor, but I highly recommend them for checking your biases and just being as factual as possible when you are coming to conclusions about news, which is very difficult. All right, that was today's Millennial News Analysis. I'm your host, Zach. Tune in again for more op-eds. Again, these are op-eds. I'm not a journalist. I'm collating news and forming an opinion that I have written a script on. And I want to say again, please don't forget to think critically. Good night.